the very heart of Silicon Valley, in one of the fastest growing cities in the United States, in San Jose, stands a building that is reminiscent of a Taoist temple in a small Chinese village. Carefully preserved inside are scenes and artifacts of Chinese immigrants who came to America. They came originally to look for gold and then to work on the railroads. First welcomed for their intelligence and capacity for hard work, they later became scapegoats as a recession sets in and jobs became scarce. Join us as we hear about the stories of these first brave immigrants and their descendants who fought to preserve their heritage. I'm your host, Susan Mann. Join us now on The Better Part. Jerry Wong, a fourth-generation Chinese American, is a well-known and well-loved figure in the Chinese community. After breaking barriers as one of the first Asian American teachers to be hired by the Oakland Unified School District, she had a long career as an educator and as a columnist for several English language magazines, and now for Ding Ding TV station. Besides raising her family of 2 children and 5 grandchildren, Jerry is well known for her warm heart, generosity, and energy as a supporter for her community. She is an indefatigable supporter, fundraiser, and board member for the many charities that she passionately believes in. Anita Wong Kwok was born in Oakland, California, and moved to San Jose when she was only 6 months old. A proud product of our local schools, Anita continued her education with a BA and an MA in education and instructional technology. Just recently retired, Anita had worked as an educator while she and her husband, college sweethearts, raised their 3 children. With a passion for U.S. history and geography, Anita shows her love for both her Chinese heritage and American roots. As one of the youngest founding members of the Chinese Historical and Cultural Project, Anita also served as president and governing trustee. With her unique professional background, Anita has led and guided the museum to implement some amazingly innovative projects. Welcome, ladies. May I call you Jerry and Anita?
Yes, thank you.
That's great. Let's jump right in. Now, for these early Chinese immigrants to Santa Clara County, life was difficult as they were isolated in areas called Chinatowns. Let's watch a short excerpt from the exceptional documentary Home Base.
They came with hope. Thousands of Chinese immigrants in the mid-1800s, weathering the grim voyage to find a better life in the land they called Golden Mountain. Many worked on the railroad, others mined for gold. Some were drawn to the fertile Santa Clara Valley, where the need for farm labor was great. San Jose, like other cities in the valley, soon had a Chinatown, a home base for the immigrants in a new and sometimes unfriendly world. In the 1870s, the country was hit by depression. Hostility towards Chinese erupted. Whites attacked the Yellow Horde as a threat to their jobs and to society in general. In 1887, to chase the Chinese out, arsonists set San Jose Chinatown ablaze. Panicked residents rushed to the water tower, only to find it empty. A crowd stood by as hundreds of Chinese lost their homes. When the smoke cleared, one figure came forth to aid the Chinese, an independent thinking landowner named John Heinlein. Just 15 days after the fire, Heinlein announced his plan to help the Chinese build a new Chinatown. Battling public outrage and attacks by the city leaders, Heinlein leased to the Chinese at low rates a settlement on the edge of town. The new Chinatown was christened Heinleinville. The new Ngxinggung Temple, the community center, was the symbol of Heinleinville, built by the Chinese themselves of solid brick so that it could not be burned down again.
Anita, can you give us a brief history of Chinese immigration to our state of California?
I think the first statistic was in 1848, and there were only 54 Chinese in California. Grew after gold rush, and statistic at 1860 was 35,000.
Wow.
And then it grew to, at 1880, it grew to 75,000. Now, then the Chinese Exclusion Act came in 1882, and the numbers drastically dropped. We had, at 1920, only 27,000.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
So it wasn't until after the repeal of the Chinese Exclusion Act that the numbers started going up again.
I see. Jerry, even though the Chinese Exclusion Act was repealed in 1943, the damage to the Chinese family and social structure remained for a long time. Now, as a lifelong Californian, how did you deal with that growing up, and then later as a parent?
Well, for my case, when I was growing up, I knew nothing about the Exclusion Act nor the discrimination that the Chinese felt because there was nothing in the textbooks. And so it wasn't until I became a parent myself that I actively felt that I should make a place where there will be more people involved in knowing about the education, the history, and the culture of the Chinese population in California. So as a teacher, then it became my goal in life to see that that happened, and I was very fortunate to be working for the Moreland District of the San Jose area, and I was chosen to present Chinese culture classes to all 11 of its schools, which I did annually for about 5 years.
Oh, wow. Wonderful.
And then, because I felt that our new Chinese community in Santa Clara County was not unified enough, I helped form a women's club called the Chi-Am Circle, which recently celebrated its 50th anniversary, a social service club that promoted a teen club for the second generation so they could learn more about their own roots.
So there was no structure, so you created it, right?
I tried to.
Very nice. And you, Nita?
The memories that I have from my childhood, we moved from Oakland to Willow Glen in San Jose, and it was primarily an Italian neighborhood.
I see.
And I have stories that my father and mother have told me about BB pellets shot into our windows.
Guns.
In the
Gunshots.
front of our house.
Oh my gosh.
And of course then, you know, the two girls were born first, so they were very protective of us even going to public school and making sure that we came home right away. My father was very active trying to get a Chinese presence in the Kiwanis Club and the Toastmasters Club, and while running the store, the grocery store that he and his brother had in Willow Glen.
I see.
But that was like my first experience with my dad being so active in the community. And then as a parent, we raised 3 kids, and I joined the Chinese American Women's Club, which my mother had been a member of too.
Now, wasn't your father a principal of the Chinese school also? That was wonderful.
I attended Chinese school from 2nd grade through high school on Friday nights.
That's pretty good.
And my father being principal, of course, that was something that, you know,
you were a role model.
We had to go to.
Sure.
And it was kind of a 2-hour time when we also met families that were from our community, and
that's
a lot of
great.
people traveled a long ways to bring their
do
children to Chinese school.
Oh, that's
They had to learn how to read and write and speak, and so it was a fun time.
Great. Anita, when did the museum project begin? How did that go?
So back in 1985, there was the Fairmont Hotel San Jose was being constructed, and in their construction, they found artifacts, and so of course everything had to kind of stop to allow people to come in and look at the artifacts. And one of our co-founders, Lillian Gongai, had a patient who was an archaeologist, and he contacted her, and she then contacted the Chinese community to try to see if there was any current organization, that would come and, do something about the artifacts, and a big fine also.
Oh,
and
wonderful.
as a result, then there was, after she was at that meeting, nobody volunteered. And so then she and Jerry decided, well,
Jerry can always
we
be
can start this
counted to
organization.
volunteer.
And that's how Chinese Historical and Cultural Project started.
Wow.
So-
Now, you're both founding members of the Chinese Historical and Cultural Project. Jerry, can you tell us how it all began after, you were given this call for help?
Well, yes, both Lillian and myself felt that this was a very important thing we should do for the community. So what we did was start enlisting citizens from all segments of the community, whether they were businessmen, engineers, historians, educators, from different ethnic communities, like the Chinese from the mainland, Chinese from Taiwan, Southeast Asia, Vietnam, and Chinese Americans. And what we did was, right in the beginning, we enrolled about 20 leaders of the community and said, let's form an organization. And all of these artifacts should go into a museum for permanent viewing of the community.
Oh, that's wonderful. And what about you, Anita? What was your response?
I felt it was important for us to showcase and show what was, out there, what had developed. And the other thing that was so amazing was this group of people gathered together with the same idea, the same thought, and we actually went into the city of San Jose and worked to create a contract with the city of San Jose.
Wow, that's
so
wonderful.
It's not just, an organization. We went beyond that. We worked with the city of San Jose to have our building in the park, History Park.
Now, Jerry, I know you're really good at this. How did you rally people to support the project, kind of like money-wise as well as, community-wise?
Well, with the meeting of the minds, we would hold monthly meetings, and we felt, how can we show a visibility in the community? So we said, we have to do it in a big way. So our very first fundraiser was at the Fairmont Hotel. We wanted to show the community at large who we were. We honored organizations of our community, what they did, whether it was the Asian Americans Community Involvement Group, which served seniors and activists problems, or educating problems, or high-tech organizations. And we had a big fundraiser, and we were overwhelmed because we had over 500 people show up.
Oh my goodness.
And then the following year, of course, we said we have to do it again because we were trying to raise $500,000 so that we can build this museum with the partnership with History San Jose. We found there was a site. We found the actual plans of the original temple that stood in the Chinatown from 1888, which we thought would be a wonderful building to erect so that we could have a museum inside.
Wow.
So in 4 years, we raised the funds, and we were very happy, very pleased, and very excited to open the museum in 1991.
Right.
And at our opening, we had 2 events. An evening event where we had over 800 people show up in support of this project, and thousands of people that came to an all-day event at the museum where we cut the ribbons and opened the museum.
In 1987, the Chinese Historical and Cultural Project united the Chinese community to preserve the history of the lost town, a plan proposed by the Chinese American Women's Club of Santa Clara County. Under CHCP, volunteers restored the temple altar. In 1991, their efforts made the resurrection of Gong Temple, the symbol of the last San Jose Chinatown, a reality. Now there's a place to remember a town, erected in fear, a town of determined immigrants who raised a confident new generation of Americans. A town that was once called Hydenville.
Jerry, what are some of your favorite exhibits?
Well, it's always breathtaking for me to remember that when we were discovering artifacts and wanting to erect this temple building, we were able to locate the original altar. Imagine an altar from 1888 that came from China, and it had been stored for 50 years under the bleachers of the municipal stadium in San Jose.
My goodness.
So when it was uncovered, it was completely covered with grime and dirt and dark. And we couldn't imagine how it would be, but we had a picture of what it once looked like. So after 1,000 hours of volunteer work by a group of ladies and men of our organization, we would see a vision of gold leaf coming out of individual pieces. And so it's very exciting for me to be able to see that altar being set up, and it's one of the sole 130-year altars shown in the United States. So we're very proud of that in our museum.
Oh, that is so wonderful.
It's my excitement to realize that we put that together, and it can be enjoyed by thousands of visitors.
Anita, with your background in instructional technology and your role in the project, you have some very cool technology in the museum. Could you talk about some of these?
We are really happy to be working with Stanford University. And the original 400 plus boxes of artifacts from the San Jose Market Street Chinatown was loaned to the archaeology department under the direction of Dr. Barbara Voss. And through her graduate students program, 2 individuals created a QR code digital exhibit, because QR codes are so easy for students and teachers to use in the classroom.
Tell us more about them.
We have the rice bowl, the soup spoon. These have individual videos with them. It's kind of like a drop-down menu.
Great.
And we have toothbrushes, talking about the toothbrushes, and it's actually, you know, quite an incredible thing for the kids to be able to click on, find out. They don't have to be at the museum. They can do this at home or at school, and they can find out more about it with visuals and a video interview from different individuals that were involved. So I am part of the Chinese soup spoon. We all were raised to hold the soup spoon a certain way, just like our chopsticks, and what that all is, and the importance of soup to the family.
I remember that.
So, you know, all of that is a part of my little speech that I give on the video.
I see.
The other
That's
things
great.
that we've been doing is we have this digital timeline now, which we ran out of physical space at the museum, and we were not able to put anything past the year 2000. So we decided to go with a flat one-touch, flat screen timeline.
No, this was a very big timeline. I've seen it.
Yes, it took up the whole wall. So we had to take part of that wall and then put the flat screen on there, and we bring it all the way up to 2015. We're currently working on, you know, trying to get it up to date, 2015 to 2018. And we'll be asking our members and friends to submit information on United States, Santa Clara Valley, and China. So we have a tri-level timeline.
That's amazing. I've seen it, and it's just so much fun to be touching everything.
Yes. Yes.
And you also have you have it lined up, you know.
Yes,
right.
we have it's 3 levels. So depending on what year you're looking at, like at the beginning, 1850s, we know that China was in drought, had internal struggles, internal problems.
Right.
And then we see that, you know, this is gold rush time in the United States, right? And then the Valley of Heart's Delight, which is San Jose, it was really prosperous in agriculture. So we see all those things lined up, and you can see why people left China, because they were struggling to survive, and they sent their children.
Right.
Many of them were children.
Right.
Sent them to America to try to do better and hopefully bring some money back to the family.
Right.
So
that's
it's
wonderful.
a really great thing for the kids to use and to see what the progress is.
Right, and to see what's happening in the different places, right?
Yes.
This is what's happening in China, and this was what was happening in San Jose.
We focus in San Jose and Santa Clara Valley on the contributions of the Chinese Americans to the valley. So we have people like Amy Chow and Jerry Yang and
oh, you're really bringing it forward.
Yes,
Oh, that's wonderful. Now I noticed that all your projects in the museum over the years, they're very well thought out, and they also have a very strong focus on young people. And this was in line with the mission of your organization, which is embrace the cultural heritage to enrich the generations to come. So tell us about some of these that are so youth focused.
Well, in the beginning, we wanted to capture everyone's interest when they come to a building. So we did produce a video called Home Base, where we interviewed some of the people who had lived in that last Chinatown. Remember, there are 5 Chinatowns, 4 of which were mysteriously burned down because, unfortunately, the population of San Jose was not that welcoming to the Chinese.
Yes.
Highlandville was the last Chinatown. Beyond that, then, we thought, let's have something for the people who couldn't come to the museum. So we established a traveling exhibit that could go to schools. That would go to schools, and it told briefly some of the history of the Chinese American immigrants who came to the valley and the contributions that they made to the history of California.
That's very nice that these people are recognized for that. And didn't it also go to a lot of libraries and
yes,
other
this traveling
places?
exhibit was updated somewhat 10 years later, and it has gone to government buildings, it's gone to libraries, and it's open even now to anyone that requests it, and we arrange for transportation. And it's a wonderful way for people that may not know anything about the contributions that Chinese have made to California's history.
That's wonderful.
And we welcome anyone that wants to see it to bring it to their companies.
Wonderful. Now, you two being teachers, of course, you guys made sure that teachers were helped in trying to teach the heritage of the Chinese people. Could you explain about?
Well, we have
a
HELP grant, which is a heritage education link program, and teachers within Santa Clara County can apply for a grant promoting cultural diversity. And so we have that, and it's been ongoing for many, many years. I think 30 years, about 30 years. So
that's wonderful.
We have that to help the teachers. And we have a new program. I think Jerry was going to talk about the new program that we fundraised for our 30th anniversary.
Jerry's so good at fundraising. Tell us about that.
Well, for our 30th anniversary, we said, what more can we do? We've done a lot, but what can we do?
Right.
So our mission for that event was to raise enough funding so that we could invite every 4th to 6th grade class in Santa Clara County to come visit our museum. And we worked with History San Jose in producing a field trip curriculum. And
Wow,
it's
that's
called
wonderful.
The Case for Immigration. And we were so overwhelmed when we offered this program in August that by the time the deadline came, we were overwhelmed with requests from teachers that wanted to bring their class to the museum and to History San Jose because we offered to pay for it.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
So I'm
it's
happy to
not cheap.
report that in the school year of 2017 and 2018, we brought in over 1,500 school children who never might have had that opportunity for a field trip to a museum as nice as the one that we have in History San Jose.
Oh, that
and
is
they visited
great.
our Museum of Chinese American History, as well as the Portuguese Museum and the Vietnamese Museum.
Wow.
So we just feel very pleased and proud that we did that, and we will continue to do that because we raised enough funding from support of the community to do that for at least the next 5 years.
Oh, that's amazing. It's almost like you're overfunded, but I shouldn't say that.
No.
It took a lot of work to get that funding,
I
and Jerry
bet.
helped us tremendously with all her
I've been
connections.
to several fundraisers of Jerry's. Yes, she's very good at that.
Well, you just have to raise awareness of the importance.
Absolutely.
And
we
with
fully
this
would support that.
overwhelming population that we have now in Santa Clara County. Remember, I grew up here over 80 years ago, and I was the only Chinese ever to be in a school during that time. And now, with this overwhelming population, we want them all to feel involved and a pride in their roots of the Chinese communities.
Oh, I can't thank you enough for coming in today and talking about this wonderful project that you have.
Thank you.
Thank
It's a
you.
pleasure.
Thank you, Jerry and Anita, for sharing your wonderful stories about the early Chinese immigrants. It's heartwarming to know that their stories of hardship and discrimination have not been forgotten by their children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and even great-great-grandchildren. You and your team have done a wonderful job in preserving early Chinese American culture and heritage. Because of your efforts, today school children in Santa Clara County are coming by busloads to learn about these early settlers to California. We thank you, viewers, for joining us today and hope to see you the next week on The Better Part.